Close your eyes for a moment and picture the American Mall at its peak. Bright lights reflecting off polished floors. The smell of fresh pretzels drifting through a crowded food court. Teenagers hanging out near the arcade, parents carrying shopping bags from Macy's and JCPenney, and parking lots so full you had to circle for 10 minutes just to find a space. For decades, shopping malls were not just places to buy things. They were the beating social heart of American suburbs. In the 1980s and 1990s, a successful mall could attract tens of thousands of visitors every single day, turning these massive retail complexes into billions. Economists now call these places dead malls. Shopping centers where declining foot traffic and store closures slowly drain the life out of what were once thriving commercial hubs. And this isn't a rare phenomenon. Across the United States, hundreds of malls built during the retail boom of the late 20th century are now struggling to survive as online shopping, changing consumer habits, and the collapse of department store chains reshaped the entire retail industry. What makes this story even more shocking is that many of these malls were once considered unstoppable. They were designed to be the center of suburban life, attracting families, teenagers, moviegoers, and shoppers all under one roof. Yet today, some of America's most iconic shopping centers have turned into eerie ghost towns, enormous buildings where the echoes of footsteps replace the crowds that once defined them. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at 10 American shopping malls that are quietly turning into ghost towns, each one revealing a deeper story about the changing building that disappears. It's an entire piece of community life that fades away. And the malls we're about to explore show just how dramatic that transformation has become. The rise and fall of the American mall. To understand why so many malls are quietly turning into ghost towns, you first have to understand just how powerful they once were. In the decades after World War II, the United States experienced a massive suburban expansion. Millions of families moved out of crowded cities and into newly built suburban neighborhoods, and developers quickly realized these communities needed centralized places to shop, eat, and socialize. That's when the modern shopping mall was born. Inspired by the enclosed mall concept popularized by architect Victor Gruen, these massive retail complexes were designed to recreate the feeling of a vibrant downtown, but inside a climate-controlled environment filled with stores, restaurants, and entertainment. By the 1980s and 1990s, the American mall had become one of the most powerful forces in the retail economy. Department store giants like Macy's, JCPenney, and Sears served as anchor tenants, drawing huge crowds that would spill into hundreds of surrounding specialty stores. Randall Park Mall, Ohio. At one point in American retail history, Randall Park Mall was considered almost unstoppable. Located in the village of North Randall near Cleveland, the mall opened in 1976 and quickly became one of the most ambitious retail projects ever built in the United States. Covering roughly 2 million square feet of retail space, Randall Park Mall was widely recognized as one of the largest shopping malls in America when it first opened. The scale of the project alone was staggering. Hundreds of stores, enormous parking lots, and major anchor tenants including Sears, JCPenney, and Macy's drew shoppers from across the Cleveland metropolitan area. During its early years, the mall thrived. The corridors were constantly filled with families, teenagers, and shoppers carrying bags from national retailers. On busy weekends, thousands of visitors would move through the complex, transforming the mall into a bustling indoor city of commerce. For many residents in Northeast Ohio, Randall Park Mall wasn't just a shopping center, it was a social landmark. Movie theaters, clothing stores, restaurants, and department stores created an environment where people could spend entire afternoons without ever leaving the building. But by the early 1990s, subtle changes in the regional economy began affecting the mall's future. The Cleveland area, like many industrial regions of the Midwest, was experiencing economic shifts as manufacturing jobs declined and population patterns began to change. At the same time, newer shopping centers were being built closer to wealthier suburban neighborhoods, pulling shoppers away from older malls. As foot traffic slowly declined, retailers inside Randall Park Mall started reconsidering whether the location was still profitable. The real decline accelerated in the late 1990s and early 2000s, when several anchor stores began closing locations across the country. Once anchors start leaving a mall, the consequences ripple outward. Hawthorne Plaza, California. In the mid-1970s, developers believed the next great retail success story was about to rise in Southern California. When Hawthorne Plaza opened in 1977 in the city of Hawthorne near Los Angeles, expectations were enormous. The mall was designed as a large regional shopping destination that would attract thousands of visitors from surrounding communities. Anchored by major department stores, including JCPenney and the Broadway, the complex offered dozens of retail shops, restaurants, and a modern indoor shopping environment that perfectly matched the retail boom sweeping across America during that era. At first, the strategy seemed to work. During its early years, Hawthorne Plaza drew steady crowds from across the South Bay area of Los Angeles County. Families visited on weekends, teenagers gathered after school, and local residents treated the mall as a convenient one-stop destination for shopping and entertainment. Like many malls built during the 1970s retail expansion, the building was designed with wide corridors, bright lighting, and a food court atmosphere that encouraged people to stay longer than a typical shopping trip. Developers believed that if shoppers spent enough time inside the mall, they would naturally spend more money. And for a while, that model worked exactly as intended by communities. Over time, crime concerns in the surrounding area began discouraging some shoppers from visiting the mall regularly. By the late 1980s, foot traffic had already started to decline, and retailers inside the complex began noticing fewer customers moving through the corridors. The decline accelerated dramatically during the early 1990s.
North DeKalb Mall, Georgia. For decades, North DeKalb Mall stood as one of the primary retail destinations for residents in and around Atlanta. Located in Decatur, the mall opened in 1965, making it one of the earlier enclosed shopping centers built during America's retail expansion. At the time, suburban development around Atlanta was growing rapidly, and malls like North DeKalb were designed to serve these expanding communities by offering dozens of stores in a single convenient location. During its most successful years, North DeKalb Mall attracted a steady stream of shoppers from across the region. Major department store anchors such as Macy's and JCPenney helped bring consistent foot traffic through the building, while smaller retailers filled the surrounding corridors with clothing stores, jewelry shops, and specialty boutiques. For many residents in the Atlanta suburbs, a trip to North DeKalb Mall was part of a familiar routine. Shopping for clothes, meeting friends at the food court, or browsing electronics stores on a weekend afternoon. But as Atlanta's metropolitan area continued expanding, retail development spread further into newer suburban communities. Large lifestyle centers and outdoor shopping districts began attracting the very retailers that once filled traditional malls. Over time, this shift created intense competition among shopping centers across the region. Like many malls across the United States, North DeKalb Mall also felt the impact of the national retail transformation triggered by online shopping. As more consumers turned to digital platforms like Amazon, the number of shoppers visiting brick-and-mortar stores gradually declined. Retail chains that once depended on mall locations started downsizing or closing underperforming stores. The results became increasingly visible inside North DeKalb Mall. Store closures slowly accumulated, leaving empty spaces scattered throughout the complex. As the number of operating retailers dropped, the atmosphere of the mall changed dramatically. Areas that once bustled with activity grew quieter, and certain corridors saw far fewer visitors than they had during the mall's peak decades. Eventually, redevelopment plans began forming to transform the aging retail center into something more suited to the modern economy.
Metro Center Mall, Arizona. For more than 4 decades, Metro Center Mall stood as one of the most recognizable shopping destinations in the American Southwest. Located in the rapidly growing city of Phoenix, the mall opened in 1973 and quickly became a cornerstone of the region's retail economy. At the time of its debut, Metro Center was considered one of the largest malls in the western United States, spanning more than 1.3 million square feet of retail space and attracting shoppers from across the Phoenix metropolitan area. In its early years, the mall thrived as suburban growth transformed Phoenix into one of the fastest expanding cities in the country. Anchored by major department stores such as Sears and Macy's, Metro Center offered hundreds of retail options ranging from clothing and electronics to restaurants and entertainment. The mall also included movie theaters and gathering spaces that encouraged visitors to spend entire afternoons inside the complex. For many residents in Phoenix during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, Metro Center wasn't just a place to shop. It was a cultural landmark where families spent weekends and teenagers gathered after school. The mall even gained national recognition when it appeared in the 1989 film Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, giving the shopping center a unique place in pop culture. For years afterward, many visitors recognized Metro Center not only as a retail destination, but also as a familiar location from the big screen. But as Phoenix continued expanding, the retail landscape around Metro Center began changing. Newer malls and open-air lifestyle centers opened in other parts of the metropolitan area, drawing shoppers away from older retail properties. These modern developments offered updated designs, outdoor entertainment spaces, and a mix of dining and shopping experiences that traditional enclosed malls struggled to compete with. At the same time, The broader transformation of the American retail industry began affecting Metro Center as well. The rise of online shopping platforms such as Amazon reduced foot traffic in malls nationwide, while many department store chains began closing locations as part of nationwide restructuring efforts. Over the years, several stores inside Metro Center shut down, leaving large sections of the mall quieter than they once were. As more tenants left, the property faced increasing financial pressure. Despite efforts to attract new retailers and maintain the mall's relevance, the decline continued. In 2020, after nearly 47 years of operation, Metro Center Mall officially closed its doors. For longtime residents of Phoenix, the closure marked the end of an era. Town West Square, Kansas. In the heart of Wichita, Kansas. Town West Square was once considered a shining example of suburban retail success. Opening its doors in 1981, the mall was built to serve a rapidly growing Wichita metropolitan area, anchored by major department stores like Dillard's and Sears. For decades, Town West Square was a bustling center of activity, attracting families, teenagers, and local residents who treated the mall as both a shopping destination and a community hub. During its peak, the mall thrived. Busy weekends filled parking lots, the food court buzzed with energy, and dozens of smaller retailers prospered thanks to steady foot traffic from the anchors. The mall even became a social hub for local youth. Teenagers gathered after school, and families spent weekends browsing stores and enjoying the entertainment options. For Wichita residents, Town West Square was more than a mall. It was a communal gathering place, a reflection of the city's growth, and a symbol of suburban prosperity. However, by the 2000s, Town West Square began feeling the pressures familiar to so many malls across the country. The rise of e-commerce giants like Amazon changed consumer habits dramatically, reducing in-person visits to brick-and-mortar stores. At the same time, national department store chains started closing underperforming locations. As anchors such as Sears began shutting their doors, the mall faced a ripple effect. Smaller stores that relied on anchor-generated traffic struggled, and vacancies began to increase. By the 2000s, sections of Town West Square had taken on an almost ghostly appearance. Long corridors that once teemed with shoppers became quiet, and empty storefronts multiplied. Attempts to revitalize the property, through events, temporary pop-ups, and local business promotions, only partially offset the decline. While some stores remained, the mall lost much of the energy that had once made it a cornerstone of Wichita retail. Town West Square's story highlights a pattern seen across America. Even mid-sized malls in smaller cities can struggle to survive when retail trends evolve faster than they can adapt. While the property is still standing, its transformation into a nearly empty space reflects the broader economic, social, and technological forces reshaping American shopping habits, the lesson from America's ghost malls. As we reflect on the stories of Rolling Acres, Randall Park, Hawthorne Plaza, Jamestown Mall, Chambersburg Mall, Westminster Mall, North DeKalb Mall, Metro Center, and Town West Square, a clear pattern emerges. Each mall began as a symbol of suburban optimism, spaces where commerce, social life, and culture intersected under one roof. Yet despite differences in location, size, and era, nearly all of them faced the same challenges: overbuilding, declining anchor stores, competition from newer retail formats, and the inexorable rise of e-commerce. Economists now study these malls as cautionary examples of how consumer behavior, technology, and economic cycles can converge to disrupt entire industries. A 2021 study by the International Council of Shopping Centers noted that more than 25% of traditional malls in the United States were at risk of significant decline or closure within a decade, emphasizing that this isn't just a few isolated cases, it's a systemic shift. The dead mall phenomenon also has profound social and psychological impacts, altering how communities interact with public spaces and forcing cities to rethink how retail, housing, and leisure can coexist. Yet even in decline, these malls provide important lessons. Redevelopment efforts show that repurposing large retail spaces into mixed-use developments, incorporating offices, housing, entertainment, and modern retail, can breathe new life into areas once dominated by shuttered stores. Communities that embrace these changes often find creative solutions, turning vacant corridors into public spaces, gyms, schools, or even medical centers, illustrating that the end of traditional malls doesn't have to mean the end of economic vitality. Ultimately, the story of America's ghost malls is a story about transformation, a reminder that no matter how iconic or massive a retail space may be, it must evolve alongside the people it serves. From the Midwest to the coasts, malls that fail to adapt fade into history, while those willing to reinvent themselves can remain relevant in a rapidly changing world. As we move further into the 2020s, one thing is clear. The age of the enclosed shopping mall as the centerpiece of American suburban life is over, but the lessons it leaves behind are invaluable for anyone interested in retail, urban planning, and the psychology of human consumption.